Today I'm speaking with a man who seems to be everywhere, whether it's ringside doing play-by-play at a fight, hosting pre and post-game coverage of the Lakers on ESPN radio, or being a ring reporter for some of the biggest fights especially this year. This man does it all. Today I'm speaking with the one and only Beto Duran. Beto, how you doing today?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Remember, the most important job I'm doing is being on your podcast. That's what matters.
Oh, I appreciate you. I met Beto in LA and he's been incredible. Anything, this guy's the mayor is what I tell people. Um,
It just means I'm
Beto,
old and I've been around a while. So that's all it is.
before we talk,
What's up? What's up with the Syracuse Mafia? You guys dominating again?
hey man, we're trying to make a name for ourselves. Football's been solid this year, but we're always around when it comes to broadcasting. That's what I'm
Yeah,
trying
exactly.
to trying to get out there, the mafia.
Yep.
Before we get into boxing, first explain to me how you got your start in broadcasting, when you wanted to become a broadcaster, and then kind of just a little bit about your journey.
This is my 24th year in this crazy world. I started off in 2000 before you were born at the Democratic National Convention. That was my first internship. I was an intern for CNN's New York affiliate, New York One. So what it was a last minute thing, and they needed somebody for 2 weeks, week before, week after, and that was one of those internships that goes to Northwestern, USC, like the big time kids. And at that time, I had friends that were going to USC, and they were like, "Hey, there's this internship here, just apply." I'm like, you had to be a USC student. And I was like, I mean, what's the harm? I'm gonna get rejected. Why not? It turned out that I didn't get it, of course. But then, the people who didn't and didn't. And then the week of the convention, I get a call back say, "Hey, are you still interested?" I'm like, "Yeah. Can you start tomorrow?" "Sure." Did I know what I was getting into? No. All I knew that it was for CNN, but as a runner. Like it was just basically you're going to be an intern as a runner, like a gopher. Go get me this, go give me that. That's what the internship was billed at, and a chance to just be, go with the reporters and wherever they go, and like make sure you give them, water or their notes. Whatever. I had no idea what was going on. But before that, I was just bouncing around junior college, trying to figure out what I wanted to do in life, and then my thing was I just wanted to work in sports in some kind of capacity. So I thought I was going to be a history teacher and coach baseball. And then I took a journalism class my fourth year of junior college. So I was like a terrible student. I'd take a class, drop it, take a class, drop it. And I took a journalism class. And then the professor was fantastic. She was a former AP writer who went to Arizona State with Al Michaels. And she's like, you're a good writer. I'm like, I am. She's like, that's an excellent lead. I'm like, what's a lead? Like in high school, I was the editor of the school paper just to get out of English class and get to the football games for free. And that's
Good
I
reason.
was, yeah, I was doing it through osmosis basically because I grew up reading Sports Illustrated and the newspaper and all that other stuff. I always had the sports page with me, but I didn't know you could actually make that job. And then I got, once I got that journalism class, I was like, wow, this is great. It was a Friday morning. I'm 21 years old. You think I really want to be there on a Friday morning? Like, look, you're at Syracuse. Nobody goes to class on Fridays, let alone an 8 a.m. class. But I loved that class, and it was once a week for 3 hours, and that it was fantastic. I never missed it. It was great. And to show how bad of a student I was, I got a C in the class. Um, but I learned it all. And they're like, "Oh, you got to get internship." I'm like, I never thought you could actually get into this world. So I thought I wanted to be a writer. I ended up doing the TV internship, and then just was like, wow, this is great seeing how TV production happens. And that week was great. We at that time Hillary Clinton was running for state senate of New York, and we so it was like four of us, um, two Northwestern, one USC, and me, and we just rotate going around with the different reporters on the site. But since I was from LA, they were like, "How do we get here?" And I'm like, "Oh, don't take that freeway. You got to go take the side streets because, like, this. You're out here for a semester. You're in the valley, so they wanted to go to Santa Monica from downtown LA at rush hour. I'm like, no, 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 no. They're like, well, they're like, we take the highway. I'm like, no, it's not called the highway. It's called the freeway out here. But here, take this street, and they're like, oh, do you know what you're doing? I'm like, yeah. So that like I parlayed that just showed them around, and that was great. And then um, the following year, ESPN Radio, where I currently work at, was launching. Sports Talk Radio was launching here in LA, and I just applied as any kind of job. So I actually got in with the promotions company, the promotions department, throwing out the t-shirts, putting up these signs, that kind of stuff. And, like the promotion crew just being around the studio. And at that time, there was only one local show. Everything was national and it was one local show. And so I'd have to be there, Monday Night Football, we'd have to go set up like, give away t-shirts or keychains. If we had to be there like at 3, I'd show up at 12 and just be in the building and hang around. And it's like hanging around, hanging around. Next, 24 years later, I'm still hanging around.
I mean, it sounds, and I've heard you say this before, but you just say yes to everything and then just continue to roll with it and then find your way.
You never know. I mean, like I've told you over the year talking to you, like create your own opportunity. I mean, you got your own YouTube page. Like, there's no reason for you to be waiting for anybody to give you an opportunity. You got to create it for yourself, man.
Definitely. Um, I'm transitioning now into boxing. I love to ask my everyone I talk to because I just feel with boxing, there's always that moment, whether it's a fighter or a particular fight that gets you into the sport. Is that the case with you? And if so, what was it?
Nah, because when you're Mexican, you grow up watching fights. There was some kind of bootleg pay-per-view stream that a black box had that some uncle had. So when I was a little kid, like friends and family would have like boxing watch parties for like Chavez and for Young De La Hoya. So you'd go there. I always liked it. I mean, I never participated in anything, but I knew friends that did box, but I never been in a ring. I ain't gonna do that. But like, you're Mexican, it's in your blood, right? You watch it all the time. So that was it. I always watched it from a distance. Like when the Olympics would happen, I'd always watch it. They would show fights during the week when I was a kid. Like I'm 46, so they would have like Saturday afternoon fights or stuff like that. Like we didn't have cable, so everybody always talks about the USA on Tuesday nights. I never knew about that, but my brother was a big fight fan, so yeah, like I went to my first fight um in Vegas. I didn't go to the fight. I went to a fight weekend. It was Mayweather, Ricky Hatton. Because a buddy of mine was a big gambler. So, they hooked him up, but we didn't have tickets. We had tickets to the satellite where you could watch the pay-per-view from a different, like a ballroom. And I was like, what is this? And everybody's yelling, there's only one Ricky Hatton. So it was crazy to see the atmosphere and everything else like that. But I have been to like local shows and like amateur shows here in Southern California, but I was always a fight fan. And how I got into boxing was uh 2013. Like I knew the people from Golden Voice. At that time, I was a reporter for ESPN Radio beat guy. So I'd go to every single sporting event in LA. And it was great. And I would go every Laker game, USC game, stuff like that. But there was local Golden Boy was putting on shows across from Staples Center where the ESPN radio studios are at.
Yeah.
There's a venue called at that time it's called Nokia, Club Nokia, like a small little, like a House of Blues kind of style. And I knew the PR people, hey, can you come and just tweet about it? I'm like, yeah. So I go to the fights and you see the young 3-0, 4-0 kids, and I was always there. So I was around. Anytime I could get a credential, go fight, I'd go, boom, boom, boom. And then the PR people were telling me, like, hey, we're looking to launch a show on Fox, on Big Fox. We're gonna have Barry Tompkins as the voice. And I'm like, great, that's awesome, great. Like, but Barry has a busy schedule. One day, maybe we want to have like somebody like as a backup to a backup, like, would you be interested? I'm like, so I auditioned, not, and there wasn't even a job. It was just more of like, put your tape together, because, in case Barry has college football, you're stuck or anything like that. And there still is a thing called the international feed. And the
Mhm.
international feed is when you're watching in the United States, at that time you would watch HBO, you watch Jim Lampley and Max Kellerman and the late Emmanuel Stewart in the United States. But there was an international feed that would go to like Germany, all around the world, like the armed forces, that because the HBO pay-per-view was exclusive to the United States because they pay a lot of money, but then you would send the world feed, and you wouldn't be on camera. And then they had different people doing it, and they're like, hey, somehow, some way, somebody can't do it. You want to try this weekend? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, it's kind of an audition. I'm like, all right, like nobody's gonna see you, nobody's gonna hear you, and you can't say you're doing it. But if you do it, cool. And I did one, and then it was it was amazing. It was a thrill. I sucked because it was the first time ever. Because think about it, you guys are Syracuse. You guys and girls broadcast every sporting event there, like field hockey, swimming, diving, lacrosse. And then if you get a job as a professional, you can go to the minor leagues, you can go to the G League, you can go, college football, whatever. you can't go anywhere to do boxing because it's 2013. There's no streaming yet. It's only TV. There is no app. There is like YouTube wasn't the way you could do. There was no Zoom, so you couldn't broadcast. So everything was TV only. And who in the right mind is going to be able to put on a TV broadcast for a club show where a guy's making like $1,000 and who's going to air it? So at that time, YouTube wasn't capable of going live yet. It was you could do stuff, but you couldn't do it. So that's why the international feed was there. So you couldn't really practice. So I did that for about a year where I would do the international calls and just practice and practice and practice. It was fun doing it. And yeah, like Barry was the legendary Hall of Famer, Barry
Mm.
Tompkins. Like I wasn't gonna replace him. But sure enough, there was a time where he had a conflict. I got to do a show, fill in some stuff like that. And when I did finally did meet Barry Tompkins, I was doing international broadcast and he was doing the main card. Hey Barry, I'm Beto Duran. Nice to meet you. He's like, oh, I know who you are. I'm like, oh, like, dude. And I'm like, wow, like I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And he's like, no, he goes, keep having fun, like just the classiest and nicest man. And
Mm.
then so like Barry would do the shows and like every now and then he'd have like a conflict, whatever. But that was fun. And then as streaming picked up, Oscar De La Hoya was putting on club shows in downtown LA. Like his Fox deal ran out, and then there was a thing called because he owns Ring Magazine. He did Ring TV, so he would do the local club shows for his guys that are like 9-0, 10-0, and we would just stream it online. That was the initial part of like how the zone got created. Like Oscar was doing the YouTube thing, and then like a year or two later, the app shows up where the zone has it, right?
Mm.
So yeah, and then like I think we did like some Facebook shows. So everything it was the Wild West for a few years. Now it's like locked in. Now your phones are just amazing. You can pick up everything, and then or you have a guy like Tim Boxell who tweets out every single fight in Tanzania or wherever it may be. Now everything is streaming.
I mean, I didn't really the connection between that and then the zone coming into play. That's incredible.
Yeah. Well, the zone existed, but they were doing soccer, right? They
Yep.
were doing darts, they were doing stuff. And then like the zone was created. I mean, I don't know the details,
Mhm.
but it was created in the across the pond. And they came in, they're like, okay, but we can't buy the rights to football, baseball, basketball, but what can we get into? And at that time, HBO was starting to shutter.
Mm.
And because boxing is expensive and who's watching it. So you want to put a product that you can get into and you can buy rights and that's what it is. So now like the zone has every single promoter has a streaming platform somehow,
Yep.
some way. Like for Thompson Boxing, I used to work at, we would do the fights on YouTube. Because you now only needed 3 cameras,
Mm.
one little mixer, and boom, look at you. You do your own show
Yep.
like because how many programs are available now where you can make a YouTube show look so fantastic with graphics? It's
So many. So many. It's
ridiculous.
endless. Mhm.
Yeah, it looks
Um,
amazing.
when covering boxing, do you find that you're able to have maybe more fun while covering it opposed to other mainstream like the four big sports? I know you do
Yeah,
Lakers stuff, because it's more of a niche sport, I feel like.
yeah.
Hmm.
So one of the things that I got when I started doing this, I now I come from the reporting background of media availability is this. Like when you cover USC, okay, who are you going to talk to? And you're like, I want to talk to these 3 guys. Okay, maybe you'll get one. Covering the Lakers for all the years that I did, it was okay. You can't watch practice, but you could talk to a certain this time. And then I go to the boxing where it's just the Wild West where Manny Robles became a good friend of mine, trainer. And I'm like, Manny, how do I get better as a broadcaster? He said, the only way you could do it is come to the gym and see how these guys work. He's like, tomorrow, come to the gym. So I would go to the gym and I'm like legit watching these guys spar. And I'm like, wait, am I supposed to be in here? Like, am I supposed to be doing this? Like, do I have access? And the guys are like legit getting a spar and they're like, hey, man, they're talking to you. I'm like, wait, there's no way you would go to a baseball player during batting practice and stand at the cage and talk to them, or they talk to you, or it was just the Wild West. So I had to unlearn that the professionalism, and it's just like realizing that boxing, it's cool because every single person has a story, and it's so unique and it has a different path. You don't know where guys come from, how they get there. Where the major four sports, everybody has that kind of path. Um, and it's just the characters that you run into, both good and bad. But I always say boxers are usually the nicest guys, and they're willing to tell you a story. And it's just it's fun to tell their stories, whether it's a kid who's just starting off or whether it's a guy who's 18 and 40. It's like, why is the guy fighting? You want to tell their story. So that's what I pride myself in, going back to the reporting roots of just telling everybody's story.
Has your approach to fighters changed over the years? How you've approached them, or has it really just stayed the same? If they've just always been inviting to you and other reporters?
Do you know what I realize? Boxers are obviously, this is great advice I was given to when I started. They get hit in the head on purpose and like it. So there's something wrong with them, right? Right. And but they don't like they'll like the conversation, but they don't know how to do interviews.
Okay.
Like, so with boxers, you gotta, and MMA fighters, like, they know how to be like the salesman, right? Like, yeah, blah, blah,
Mm.
blah. But when you're actually doing fighter meetings, having a real conversation with them, they're guarded because it's like, why are you asking all these questions? Why? So you kind of have to disarm them a little bit. Like, hey, man, everything you tell me is just for the broadcast, so I get to know it. I want to tell your story. Once they realize that you're not trying to get a gotcha moment with them, and it's like, cool. But the boxing media, this is kind of crazy. Some guys become like too buddy buddy with people, and it's like, you got to maintain that fine line of like, hey, look, I'm a reporter, a broadcaster. I'm not your friend, but you get to know these guys really well. But it's more about just having the mutual respect.
So going into it, I know you do both play by play and then you're a ring reporter for sometimes. Can you talk to me, or can you talk to me, the audience, what the difference is when you're in your preparation for both of those roles, or is it about the same preparation?
See, so okay, when I'm the ring reporter, I want to tell you what is going on that you can't see. Um, so when I worked ring reporting with DAZN, it's either with Grisham or with Corey Erdman, who are fantastic. And I bet though, these guys well, tell us their stories. And that goes back to um, having conversation with the coaches and the trainers, not just fight week, but beforehand. If I can go to the gyms, I go do that. Like, hey, I got your fight in a month. What's up? Can I come watch you spar? Get to know that kind of relationship and tell those stories, because I only have 45 seconds during a hit. It's between rounds. So what you want to do is, we can always put the microphone on the trainer and you tell them jab, 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 blah, 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 blah. And we do that a lot where you'll go to the corner and they're showing them boom, 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 boom,
Yep.
and hit them here, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, so if I know that, I'll sit right next to them and I'll say, hey, okay, you told them that. Why? That's the most important thing. Why? Okay. So like either corner, he's like, I want you to do this, blah, 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 blah. But tell me, why do you want to do that? Okay. Or I find out a little nugget that's different, or I'll see stuff. Like for a good example, this goes back to relationship. For the Bohachuk Virgil Ortiz fight, I
Yep.
was working the corner. And I've known, like mentioned, been Manny Robles, known him 10 years. And again, this goes relationship during the fight week. I tell coaches, hey, I'm gonna be the ring reporter if I see you, blah, blah, blah. We're conversation. If you don't, what happens? And he's like, so but this relationship with them. So Manny, I'm like, Manny, what'd you tell him? He's like, not right now, Beto, not right now. I can't do it right now. We were gonna do the interview. And I'm like, cool, it's picking up, no problem. And I turned to his number two man, Edgar Hassel, Esrita, who I know. I was like, yo, you ready? And he's like, yeah, I'll do it. And because I had that relationship, and because I had told Manny earlier in the week, hey, if it happens, do I have permission to talk to your team? He's like, yeah. So my director and our producer is like, no, well, we want Manny. I'm like, yeah, but this guy, they work hand in hand. They're one and one A. They're actually brother-in-laws, they work together. And it ended up being, Edgar gave me some great information. It kept with the flow, like that. That goes back to young reporters. If they tell you no, don't just accept the no. Always have a plan what's going to happen in case that, because I knew that was a situation like that. And then on the flip side, Robert Garcia was in Virgil's corner. And I'm like, Robert's like, I don't want to do the interview, but I'll talk to you. Right. Which is great, out of respect. But if I had only met him that day and got up to him like, hey, I'm the reporter, and I talked to him while they're getting their hands wrapped, he's not going to give me that respect. So it goes back to building relationships over time. That's where I feel I bring that benefit. But it's so as far as the preparation, I want to take you in there, because if you're at home watching and you feel the intensity, I want to amplify the intensity even more. And then like, hey, this is what they're saying, blah, blah, blah. Like when they tell him, hey, you got to go get a knockout, I always ask them, why? Right?
Right.
Because I want him to knock him out, or because I want him because I think we're losing. As far as the play by play, that's fun. So like for a fight week, if it's say Saturday, I start preparing usually the week before for the main
Mm.
guys, and you get to know them. And I check all their socials, I check their box rec, I check all the information and that's from both sides. I do a lot of the prelim cards for Golden Boy for the guy who might be 3-0 taking on a guy who's 8-12. And I'm going to give the guy who's 8-12 the same amount of respect that I would the 3-0 fighter, even though that guy might be getting knocked out. You never know, because if it does happen where that dude wins, I want to tell you why. Why is it not a surprise? What it is. So a lot of it has to do with at the weigh-ins, talking to him beforehand. We have fighter meetings or just going to see and stuff like that. And just being at the hotel, talking to guys. It's a lot of just conversating, talking with them, figuring things out. Like I always like to say that my favorite fighter is a journeyman named Dual Ogin, who's 18-40. He fights every 3 weeks from Guadalajara. He shows up, he wears the same trunks, same boots, because he shows up usually the day before on a last minute call. And I found out over the year, like, why does he fight so much? I'm like, the guy's a good fighter. And he'll win every 10 fights. He'll beat a prospect because it
Yeah.
turns out he's fighting because he and his wife couldn't have kids. So they went in vitro route, and he has a regular job, but he boxes to pay off what the money he spent for in vitro. So like you tell that story, like you're going to tell me that guy's not, all these guys are fighting for more than what we know of. So that's why I'll never make fun of a fighter for getting in the ring. I don't care if their record's 0-10 or 10-0. It just, you just always have to pay the respect, but you want to give a story as to who these guys are.
Definitely.
And
And I mean, I mean, it's like that's why I don't like to call fighters ducks, because at the end of the
oh my
day,
God.
they're getting in the ring and we're not. It's
Yeah.
like every time you step in that ring, your life is honestly on the
Yeah.
line. And so that I appreciate that, because that's just respect. And I don't
Yeah.
care what your record
It's
is.
fun to do. It's fun to do. It's
Mhm.
where you're allowed to tell stories. That's why boxing is just fantastic.
Definitely. Now kind of switching over to just boxing today. I know you were at Haney versus Garcia. You were the ring reporter for the Ortiz Boacek fight, which is I think maybe fight of the year, if not in the top three. What are some of your favorite moments or fights of this year so far? We're in the fourth quarter. What are some of
Yeah.
your favorite moments?
Ryan Haney was a crazy promotion.
Yeah.
A lot of it because Ryan said he acted crazy, right? And I've known Ryan since before he signed with Golden Boy. Back to those Velasco, those fight cards. When I'm talking about, we were starting on YouTube. He was going there. He was like 3-0, trying to get attention. Before he was Ryan Garcia. He's
Mm,
like 17, 18 years old. So you've seen the evolution of Ryan grow up, and it's like, oh, okay, that's what you're doing. But that was a crazy promotion from the day he got signed.
mm,
I hosted the press conference in Hollywood where he showed up on a horse, an hour and a half late. Me and Doug Fisher, just professional Phil. Haney was a pro with us. Ryan was just crazy and erratic with what he was doing. But now we all know he had a little wink in his eye. It was crazy. But Ryan beating him in the manner that he did, whether like whatever, I'm not into the
mm.
details of like what he popped,
Yeah.
whatever. Like it's just the actual fight was crazy to be part of. But that was another one. Was like, well, why was it at Barclays Center? Well, because the Knicks and the Rangers were good.
Yeah.
So because the Knicks and Rangers, people got to understand this from the business side. When you have a multi-use building, that professional leagues, once they think that you might have a chance to get into the playoffs, they put hold on those dates. So all of April and all of May is held. That's why you'll never see a fight at Crypto, because the Lakers are going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So the Knicks were good, the
Mhm.
Rangers were good. So Vegas, Canelo had a lock on it. LA, the Lakers were going to the playoffs. So you can't plan a fight if there's no dates available. Um, like I said, Vegas, Canelo and his promotion had different dates on holds on it. So it's like, okay. So that's why they went to Brooklyn, because as soon as the Nets were eliminated, okay, we're going to have April available. Let's go. Like you want to have a big arena. Same thing with Texas. The Rockets were there, but Ryan had already been there. So, and then of course, New York is just New York. So that's fantastic to have. Virgil was a great fight. It was great to see, but like that one was, they just went back and forth. So, but I think for me, the fight has been great just to watch as a fan was the Joshua Dubois last weekend,
Oh,
where Anthony Joshua is just Anthony Joshua, and Dubois, he comes back and just knocked him out in the manner that he did. And that was just one. And there's nothing like a big heavyweight fight. I've never worked a heavyweight fight that's a title fight. So that just seems like it would feel different. I've done every other division except the heavyweight title fight. So like a main guy, like because I work for Golden Boy, they don't have any heavyweights.
Mhm.
So but that's a different story. But I've seen like I saw Deontay Wilder when he was young and starting off, but not when there are titles.
I mean, that's what I heard throughout the last week going to the Joshua Dubois fight. It's different when it's heavyweights, and in
Oh,
Wembley, over 93,000 people there. I
yeah.
can't even imagine the
That's something I would
atmosphere.
love to do. I've yet to do a fight in England, but I want to do that. As they say, go across the pond and see. And as much as I don't like Sweet Caroline, sing Sweet Caroline with them.
hmm you mentioned Canelo and his holds. Canelo just had a fight recently, really dominate over Edgar Berlanga. I want to ask you, there's two fights talked about Canelo Crawford and Canelo Benavidez. One, would you like to see Canelo Crawford, or is Canelo Benavidez really the only fight right now?
Um, Again, having known Canelo, like not know him, but
Yeah.
known him since my entire career with Golden Boy. Um, he's at the age, at the part of his career where he can do whatever he wants.
Yep.
And if you can generate 40 million for your family, I mean, you're not really worried about who you're fighting. It's about doing what you want to do. You call the shots. I Benavidez is just a big monster. And again, I've known David since he was 18 years old. When he was 160 or 168, whatever he was. A nice guy. Um, Before he was a champion. I would love to see that, but will we? Probably not, because he's in his prime and Canelo's at the end of his prime or at the end of his run. And if I'm Canelo, and I don't blame him, because if I was him, I'd probably be doing the same thing. You give me somebody where I can do this and I make 40 million and it's not that big of uh, a leap, do it. Do we get Canelo Crawford? Probably, because that's the one that's going to generate money worldwide. Canelo Benavidez is for the hardcore fight fan, for the casual around the world, because Bud brings people
Yep.
from the non-boxing world. And Canelo's all about the big spectacle of what he can do legacy-wise, right? And that's what he's doing right now. Are they going to say that in 15 years that he didn't fight Benavidez? Probably. Is he going to care? No. It is what it is, and he's earned the right to call out whoever he wants to fight.
Definitely. It feels like it's just point in his career. He calls the shots, and I
He always
agree with
has,
you.
but yeah,
Yeah,
because
I agree with you. I think we get Canelo Crawford. I think
that's
Crawford.
the money fight.
Yep. And for Canelo, I don't think there's too much risk. Crawford, I mean, yeah, Crawford going up two weight classes. I know he's a great boxer, but again, there's weight classes for a reason.
Yeah, and if
S-
I'm Bud, I'm like, give me that fight, man. Make all that money.
Definitely. For you, three fights you'd want to see in 2025.
Oh, okay. I'm going back to the heavyweights.
Hmm.
I know it won't have anything on the line. I still want to see Joshua and Deontay Wilder.
Yep.
Um, See, like in MMA, it's okay, you lose. All right, cool. Who are you gonna fight next? Let's make a good fight. In boxing, you lose. Oh, is it the end of them? Like it's just
Hmm.
so stupid. Like it doesn't have to just have a belt on the line. Let's just get a freaking good fight.
Yep.
I that's the one I want. I've always wanted to see it, and now that they're both kind of where they're at, it's like okay, like that's a knockout for sure. And I don't even know which way.
Right.
Um, Deontay. I mean, the brawl that he with Fury and the way he got beat down at the end. But that's just me wanting to see in that kind of fight.
Mm.
Um, and it's, I mean, I'm gonna stay away from the Canelo Benavidez because
Mm.
Canelo hasn't knocked out anybody in a while. The young guns coming through, like it's if we can get a Virgil Ortiz at 154 against, or even at 160 if he moves up
Mm.
against somebody else who is elite, where's the boots or whoever it is, like Virgil has that mean streak and he'll come after you. That'd be great to see. Um, yeah, just give me those kind of guys right there. Just give me, I mean, I just want to see a fight where somebody gets knocked out. That's all I want.
Um, one Virgil idea, and this is just me from being Texas. Virgil Ortiz versus Earl Spence Jr. in
Yeah,
AT&T Stadium. And I know
yeah,
Spence, we don't know what his future is, but
yeah.
that being a spectacle in Texas, I think that would be an insane buildup, an
I did the
insane atmosphere.
Canelo. Yeah, I did Canelo Smith at Cowboy Stadium, and something was just like, wow! It felt electric in that building when you walk in and you're doing the fight, and the ring is on the star. Like, okay, everything's bigger in Texas. Yeah, 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 it is. So Virgil, like the thing is, Virgil's a hardcore fight fan, but all of Texas is behind him. Like Virgil doesn't care about the promotion. Virgil don't care about that. Hey, like who knows? Maybe Ryan moves up to that weight class. I mean, a Ryan spectacle, you never know because Ryan he's in his late 20s now. He's a big kid. He's 5'10", 5'11". He carries that weight well. I'm not again, not to say that they will, but you never know.
Mhm. Definitely.
But again, hate him or love him, whatever it is you do with Ryan, anywhere he goes, there's a spectacle, man. So Ryan at
Absolutely. I
Cowboy
mean,
Stadium would be pretty intense, and he lives there.
yeah. I mean, he trains with Derek James now in Dallas. I mean,
Yeah,
that would be him versus Virgil and AT&T. That would be that's a dream fight, hopefully down the line. I wanted to ask you about Turkey Al-Sheikh. I know you had an interview with that on that Virgil Ortiz fight
yeah,
that a lot of people were talking about it. What's your opinion on Saudi Arabia and Turkey? I mean, he's kind of a prominent figure, and maybe that's something boxing needs. What's your opinion on how he's been the last year?
crazy, right? It's they spend so much money and don't care if they lose it. Every other promoter I've ever worked with is trying to nickel and dime you because they're trying to make a profit. Turkey's like, boom, let's go. Golden Boy's gonna have a show with him in November, where it's gonna be um, a major card that they're gonna put on, and it's like, wow, because when he's the only guy that's come in that makes promoters work together. When you have Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn on the same dais, and they're like, hey, hey, all right, buddy, buddy, two dudes who couldn't stand to be in the same room, but
Mhm.
he's giving them a bunch of money, and at the end of the day, BS walks, right? Money talks, BS walks, and like, say what you want to say, and I'm not going to get into the politics or the humane treatment. It just from the business for the sports aspect, he's making the fights for the fight fans, and we are seeing him. Is it a crazy spectacle? Absolutely. He's getting involved with Dana White now. The dude is throwing money around everywhere, and you're seeing fights happen. And the interview with him was interesting because I was standing there with Oscar, and that's when they announced that they're going to work together in November. Like, okay, it was just I never seen so many people take pictures of me interviewing somebody because everybody was around it. And I get done with that interview and I'm getting texts from numbers I don't even know who I know are just like casual friends, like
Mhm.
not fight fans, but it's just like, dude, what are you doing? And it's like
Yeah.
that was the picture that went viral. And it's, he put on a show here in LA with Bud Crawford. I
Mhm.
mean, he spent a lot of money on the production value. So he's spending money, which is good for the sport and it's good for the fighters.
Like, I think one of the biggest gripes when he first got here was he wants to take the fights away from the US and the UK, but with the Bud Crawford, and then he was a part of the Anthony Joshua fight in the UK. So he's
Riyadh
showing that
season.
he's showing he'll take Riyadh season to US. It doesn't have to be in Riyadh. So I think that's always a plus. And yeah, if we get the fights we want to see, I mean, there's no real debate.
You're going to learn quickly in your career. That's above my pay grade.
I'll just sit here and watch the fights. That's what
Yeah,
I'll
it's
do.
they're like, okay, you're interviewing Turkey. I'm like, okay, cool. I thought I was interviewing Oscar. Here it is. Go for it. So yeah, it's just you just above my pay grade, bro.
For Ring Reporter, right back to that real quick. When you are going, you have questions prepared beforehand when you go at the end of a fight to talk
Yeah,
to a
obviously.
fighter.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Or is it, yeah.
When it's okay. It goes back to the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid, right?
Mm.
Um, you have to remember, this. Yes, Syracuse, you guys are taught great over there on how to do interviews. You never do the talk about, or
Yep.
you want to keep it simple because you got to remember with a fighter, the emotions are so crazy, and in the ring, they can't really hear you. And also, if they just went 12 rounds, they have a concussion. Like they got hit. So like I'm not gonna be Larry Merchant and have like a long version. Larry is amazing, amazing, amazing man. But Larry was an old school newspaper writer from Philly, right? So I keep my questions really simple because the guys can't really hear you. And if it's a basic, like if there's something controversial, then yeah. But a lot of times it's simple. But I have my questions prepared, but I rarely ask them all. It's always my first one. Um, and it's more of an idea. If they win, what happens? If they lose, what are you going to ask? If there's a draw, what are you going to ask? That one. But the most important thing is you've learned this on all your classes at Newhouse. Listen to the answer and you feed off of that. To go back to recently with Virgil in the ring, Virgil's a great kid. Nobody hates on Virgil. And he says, "Yo, this is for all the haters." And I'm like, I answered back on it, Virgil, what haters do you have? You put on a great fight. And he's like, all the people out there on social media, this, and that. I was like, so I think my follow up with that was, why do you let it bother you? Like, I've known him. I was like, I've known you for a while. Why do you let it bother you? And so, like, listen to the question is the most important thing because you want to ask the questions like, I always pretend this. If my friends were doing this job, I'd be like, dude, ask them this, ask them that. Because what do we
Hmm.
do? We're at home, we're all drunk, watching the fight, tweeting, right? Posting memes. And
Hmm.
it's like, dude, ask them about this, blah, blah, blah. So try to do that. I always try to remember what would the fan want to know.
Absolutely. Last question here, and again, thank you so much for your time.
Not a problem,
If you're
man.
able
It's
to
fine.
change, if you're able to change something or a few things in the sport of boxing, what would it be? Would it be the politics between promoters? What would it be?
Well, thanks to Turkey, the politics are really going away, right? They're working
Mm-hmm.
together. Um, I just wish fighters would fight more often.
Hmm.
And it can't be changed because it's money and it's reason. Like Canelo is, I'm fighting May and September. He's earned that. But like, you know, I'll give Anthony Joshua credit. He's fought a lot recently. We've seen him a lot.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, obviously there's some fighters that need a break after fights. But like Virgil's fought in January, he fought recently. He's gonna fight if he could. If he hadn't fought Bohachek so hard, he would have fought in December. But you need a break. But I just wish younger fighters that were more exciting would be fighting more often because that's how you build your fan base. When you're like Ryan, when he was brought up, was fighting 4 or 5 times a year, and then he became the fight twice a year guy. Like, but I give Ryan credit. He wants to fight, but it's just a lot of it is you price yourself out certain ways because the budgets and how much money you can command. But I would say the younger fighters that aren't champions yet, I just wish they would fight 3 or 4 times a year. And I get it. You want to protect your record and you want to do this, but it's like we can't become your fan if we don't see you.
And one thing I give Ryan Garcia a lot of credit for this, and I think a lot of fighters should follow this blueprint, is if you take a loss, you get back in the ring. You don't take a year away from the ring. Sometimes a
Great
loss,
point.
like when he lost to Tank in December, later that year, he was fighting Oscar Duarte.
Yep.
And he was able to get the win back and get kind of his fans back. He didn't wait a year and a half, 2 years to get back in the ring just because he took a loss. So that is one thing I agree
Well,
with you
like
that
you mentioned
I think
Spence earlier, like I wish we would have seen more Earl Spence in his prime. I mean, mind you, he had
yes.
the car accident, but
Hmm.
even before that, though, he wasn't fighting as often. And I get it. You're making a bunch of money. Why would you want to fight? I'm talking about the kids who are on the brink of being like,
Hmm.
top time contenders. Fight more often.
I think one kid that does that amazing is Abdullah Mason, prospect
Yeah,
for Top Rank.
perfect.
I swear, every time I turn on a Top Rank fight, he's on the card,
Yep.
and he's gained fans, and I think he's doing
Top
it the
rank
right
does a
way.
great job moving young fighters. They do a great job moving young fighters.
Definitely. Well, I know this has been amazing. Thank you so much. Oh,
Appreciate it, man.
tell our viewers what you have coming in the next
All
few
right.
months.
Instagram, just follow me at Beto
Mm.
Vision. That's fun because that's where I post all my stuff from Fight Week. And then Twitter is boring, Duran Sports. That's where I'm professional with the Lakers stuff. But Instagram's cool. What do we got going on? Golden Boy Fight Night end of October. With the young prospects coming up. There's a kid. Remember this name?
My apologies. My apologies for that. Beto's computer died that last second. Perfect timing, right? But he called me, gave me the kid's name that he told us to remember. Look out for. Hayden Griffiths is the name. Thank you to Beto. Big shout out to Beto. I met him in LA. He's been nothing but helpful. Thank you to him. Thank you for you all listening in. Join along here on the Never Drop podcast. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment below this channel. We cover with all the boxing news. Thank you so much. We'll be back with another episode in the Never Drop podcast. Peace. I'm out.